Greetings, Dr. Zariel and Dr. Azari. We are Team A of Avionics Semester 1, and today we will be presenting about VOR and DME. My name is Joana, and my matrix number is 207631. I will begin the presentation with a brief introduction of what VOR and DME is. So first of all, what is VOR? VOR means very high frequency omnidirectional range. Omnidirectional means transmitting signals in every possible direction. VOR is a short-range navigational facility that is located on the ground. And as the name implies, very high frequency, short range, it operates within 108 megahertz to 117.95 megahertz. So what does VOR do? VOR transmits unit from the ground to the aircraft in order for the aircraft to determine position and to stay on course. How does it do that? VOR transmits radio signals, also known as radiols, to the aircraft. So in short, the VOR on the ground transmits radios to the aircraft to allow the pilots to determine the position to or from the station in terms of bearing. Then the aircraft's heading can then be determined using these radio waves received. This VOR is still a relevant equipment today because just in case the GPS stops working, we can rely on the ground-based navigation as a backup. So this is one of the importance of the VOR. So next is the DME. The DME is a short form for distance measuring equipment. DME gives the continuous slant range distance of the aircraft from the station. Slant range distance is as shown here in a picture in the slide. So how does it do that? First, the aircraft transmits signals that is in the same frequency as the radio signals in the DME. And then the DME sends back the signal received from the aircraft after a fixed delay of 50 microseconds by the DME ground equipment. So from this delay, we can compute the slant distance using this formula, speed times time taken. The speed we use here is the speed of light because the radio signals travels in the same speed as light, and the time taken here is time taken for one way, which is either from the aircraft to the station or from the station to the aircraft. So how do we obtain this time is from the time taken that we see, which is two ways, we minus the 50 microseconds of delay from the equipment and then divide it by half so we can obtain the time taken for only one way. And then using the time taken, we times the speed of the radio signal, and then we obtain the slant distance. So this enables the aircraft to measure its position relative to the beacon.
Welcome. Thanks for joining me, Doctor. Today we're going to talk about the history of VOR. It is a very high frequency omnidirectional rangefinder, or more commonly known as the VOR. On previous automatic directional finder scheme, the VOR was an upgrade because it has directional beacons in the field, and each facility broadcasts a different signal in each direction. 360 signals for 360 degrees of circle, so a signal for every degree, which proves much room less for error. And as a result of that, instead of barely pointing to a single ground station, the VOR receiver can track from a station along a specific path and calculate how far it is from that particular radio. On older AN ranges, they operate usually at a low medium frequency, and that was used to be back to the late 20s. And continuing from that, in the 1950s, they used to have the vacuum tube transmitters because transistors was not created at that time, and it would be mechanically rotated antennas and mounted, but that started to be replaced in the 1960s with fully solid state units. That system was created and developed after World War II for the identification friend or foe schemes, because there used to be a lot of friendly fire and no one would know if the person is a friend or an enemy. Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum and greetings to my lecturers and my classmates. My name is Miza Shazwina Binti and my matrix number is 20822. To continue the presentation with working principle. So first, we are going to talk about the working principle of VOR. So VOR, as we may or may not know, VOR, it relays a very high frequency radio composite signal. The signals that we talk about is the data, the station Morse code identifier, and also the voice identifier. So this will permit the airborne receiving equipment to obtain the magnetic bearing to the aircraft from the station. So firstly, VOR radiates a stationary master signal and a rotating variable signal. So the signal is actually seized by the VOR antenna. The antenna is usually located at the tail of the aircraft. So when the antenna sees the signal, they will convey it to the receiver in the cockpit. The receiver that will then compare the difference between the phases, the variable air reference phases, and so then they can determine the aircraft's bearing from the station. So the bearing is actually the aircraft radial that is currently on, and the radial is a form of the bearing. They are always related to the magnetic direction from a radio aid, and the needle will deflect accordingly. Next is the VOR navigation will allow aircraft to fly point to point along established airways between VOR. The normal frequency range for VOR is usually between 108 MHz and also 117.95 MHz. They also have a power output necessary to deliver coverage within their assigned operational system volume. Other than that, VORs are also limited to line of sight. As an example, although VOR is like a very modern technology, obstacles, terrain, and even the slope of the earth can actually stand in the way of VOR signals. So, but there is actually no restrictions on how many airplanes can use a VOR at the same time. So, the further away you are from the VOR, the higher you have to fly the aircraft in order to get the signal reception. So this is why VOR service have a slope at the lowest altitude, so they can account for terrain and curvature of the earth. And VOR majority have DMEs. So now we are going to talk about DME. DME stands for distance measuring equipment. Although DME operates in a separate frequency band, its frequencies are occasionally set with the VOR. So when the pilot with the aircraft that has DME, they tune in with the frequency of a VOR with the DME. The frequency of the DME is also tuned. The aircraft will examine the DME ground station with a pulse signal, and the station will respond. DME also calculates the time between transmission and reception, so they can determine the distance, ground speed and time to station. They can actually be derived through the calculation. Next, the DME can also be presented in nautical miles, and they are measured in terms of slant range distance. As you can see with the figure this side.
Assalamualaikum and greetings to Dr. Zaril and Dr. Amzari. My name is Nurin Syazana Binti Mohamed and my metric number is 207071, and today I'll be presenting about the application of VOR and DME. So the first application that I'll be presenting about is for-flight apps. So this for-flight application is known as Intelligent Flight Apps for pilots. It is formed back in 2007 with their one direct mission, which is to create software that makes flight planning easier. So that is their mission. It is used by the individual. This application is used by the individual pilots and also the professional flight crews, which they gather the weather and also this destination information efficiently. This application has become the go-to app to route, plan and file, access and manage electronic charts and maps, and also organize the flight publications. This app is used as a reference for Android navigation aid. So the total size of the apps is about 275.2 megabyte. It is also compatible with iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch, which only support iOS 13.0 and above. Okay, so right now I'll be talking about the feature that this Spotlight app have. So this Spotlight app have many great features, and one of it is VOR DME. So this application deliver an incredibly beautiful panning and continuous zoom experience, which the user can zoom which they want, which part they want, and also it allows user to customize which map elements it currently shows or hide. So the user can also choose between light, dark, and classic map themes and toggle terrain features on and off. The pilot also can add or remove airspace, view the high or low airways, and also adjust the level text size. The user can find the combination that works best according to their preference for this application. So if you can see this image on the screen, it shows the guideline on how to enter the waypoint using the VOR DME features. So as you can see, the user need to enter the waypoint as formatted like shown in the screen. So it is like this: VOR ID / 3-digit radius and then / the distance. So this one is the example. Okay, next, the second application is the VOR tracker. So this application, the developer of VOR tracker is Karsten Halen. And these apps have 37.6 megabyte size, and it also compatible with iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch, which support iOS 8.0 and above. So this VOR tracker, which we know the name itself has shown the features in it. It is a small and powerful training tool for pilots. It shows a real IFR simulation, which help the user to practice the IFR procedures in real time. So the user can start practice holding the patterns, DME arcs, radial interceptions, and also 2-needle tracking. The next is about the features of VOR tracker. So basically, this VOR tracker has several features, and also one of it is VOR and NDB navigation, which you can see on the screen. So this application, it is assured that the instrument is displaying the different characteristics, okay, whether it is the cone of silence for VOR navigation or it is atmospheric disturbance for NDB navigation. So NDB comes with atmospheric disturbances, which you can see at this image. So for the dip error, it can be adjusted in the settings menu to match the user's preference. Okay, so both VORs and NDBs can be co-located with the DME ground station. So if the pilot use this application, they know how to use it accordingly. So as you can see here in the image, it has a cool design which shows the start, reset, the menu, and also the needle tracking, and also the altitude and speed, and so on and so forth.
It's very simple, but it's brilliant. It's created by an Airbus 320 captain, so it's very detailed and it's very nuanced.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Zeral and Dr. Ansari. My name is Mutaman Mohamed and my matrix number is 204848. And now I will be presenting to you the conclusion. Finally, we can conclude that the VOR DME definitely had a significant impact on airplanes and the aerospace industry in general. It is a system of short distance navigation and has provided service over the past decade to all civil and military aircraft. It is needed, of course, to know the area and objective of an airplane. Improvements have been incorporated which have been in the nature of refinements. The constant use of VOR DME meet the growing regular air traffic demand since 1980. Recent analysis indicate that continued use of VOR DME meets the increased civil aircraft demands through 1980, and it will require that the system demonstrate a capability for greater accuracy for terminal area operations. It will require the structure to display a capacity of more noticeable exactness for terminal zone exercises, and such improvements are feasible due to the appraisal results and new techniques that are being depicted in favor of this end. Development activities and now underway indicate that such improvements are feasible. Evaluation results and new techniques are described in support of this conclusion. And thank you very much.